Come, let us explore love's... Take two. Come, let us explore love, the litmus test of meditation. So, we're going to begin our explanation with the 34th verse of Yongjieshwanjue's Song of Enlightenment, translated by Red Pine, adapted and amplified by yours truly. Here we go. He here is referencing the Buddha. He shook his Dharma thunder, he beat his Dharma drum, he spread clouds of compassion and showers of sweet dew. The trampling of elephants covered the world with moisture. Whatever their path or lineage, everyone woke up. So how did the Buddha express his love? By teaching a path that actually worked. Not that worked for special people, not that worked in certain places, not that worked over 3 oceans of time, but within a week or two. Not that were just for special people who believed a certain way, but for anybody of any path or any lineage. Let's take a deeper look at this. And so to do that, we're going to switch screens. Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, including human beings. Since the Neolithic Revolution, the majority of societies have trained the majority of people to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. And when this is the case, the most subversive thing we can do is choose to rebel and instead be flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. But the majority of folks don't. The majority of folks are just tickled pink to be rigid and controlling. Excuse me. This is seen when the majority of people who do meditate are instructed to practice active focus or active analysis. And the only way to perform these activities is to rely upon discrete neural pathways, such as those found in the medial or the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. Now you might say, fine, no problem. I'm a Homo sapien. I got a big old brain. Well, yes you do. But this little area here can get tuckered out, and when it does, our amygdala is triggered. Cue the scary music. Dun, dun, dun. So what's up with our amygdala? Our amygdala is the seat of aggression and anxiety, or perhaps I should say anxiety and aggression. I think you would agree that most of us don't wake up early in the morning and say, I'm feeling like there's not enough anxiety and aggression in my life. I've got a surplus of peace and love, and I just want to replace them with as much anxiety and aggression as I can imagine. No. Who says that? Nobody. Not even the Grinch. Nobody says that. And yet, 9 times out of 10, when you go to a zendo or you go to a temple, you are taught to meditate this way. And when the few people who have enough sentience to notice, gee, I'm getting more cranky, they'll just double down and say, well, then I need to focus on love. I need to contemplate the benefits of love. But that's just going to further exhaust the prefrontal cortex, trigger the amygdala, and dig the ditch of anxiety and aggression even deeper. Well, that sucks. Here's some good news. When we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, our sympathetic nervous system assists us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. And this is called mindfulness. And when we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, our parasympathetic nervous system helps us to physically relax and mentally release to the point that what we noticed during our inhalation could fleetingly feel less tantalizing, less permanent, and less defining. As a fringe benefit, it calms our amygdala's anxiety. It calms our amygdala's aggression. It calms our amygdala's efforts to dominate and control our choices and utterances and deeds. But there's more. Simply by playing with mindfulness and meditation, we wind up stimulating our anterior cingulate gyrus, this region right here, deeper or behind our prefrontal cortex. This region right here functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy, which functions as the root of compassion and love. And so this is the wonderful thing. The late teacher Tuku Tandap insisted that the highest love was not a contrivance, flaccid and worthless and weak, but instead the highest love was the spontaneous and uncontrived fringe benefit of simply noticing and releasing in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation, the way that our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems have evolved. You see, due to a quirk of evolution, our big old brains habitually lives in competition with our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, making us really cranky and anxious. But when we practice mindfulness and meditation correctly, we get to shatter that habit and forge a new habit wherein our cerebral cortex actively cooperates with our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. So at this point, this concludes the opening lesson. And at this point, I would very much like to meditate with you after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School for more than 30 years. I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. Please chant with me. Whatever comes, may all beings let it come. Whatever stays, may all beings let it stay. Whatever goes, may all beings let it go. Welcome to the first quarter of this evening's mindful crease counting meditation. When we rest the great knuckle at the base of our right little finger upon the tip of our left little finger, palms up in our lap, we gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce in the bladder region of our lower abdomen. And so together as a team, let us practice mindfulness and meditation right now. By the way, I forgot to mention during the opening lesson that according to the Buddha, 50% of the Eightfold Path is comprised of loving kindness. So if someone tells you they're too spiritual to be empathetic, they're too spiritual to have love and compassion, tell them that in the words of Bugs Bunny, they've taken a wrong turn at Albuquerque. let's take a gander at the 35th verse of the Song of Enlightenment. There's going to be a little bit of editing. Sorry about that. This is a work in progress. Himalayan butter, said the vegan while cringing. Himalayan butter with nothing added. It alone produces my favorite ghee. So this is written by a Chinese fellow, probably without a sophisticated understanding of Indian culture. My own understanding of Indian culture is because my first wife, bless her heart, was Bengali, or at least half Bengali. Let's hit this. Okay. So we're going to replace that with milk. So since this is not an ancient Buddhist cookbook, but instead a treatise on philosophy, we're going to cut the author a bit of slack. The nature that pervades all natures. The Dharma that includes all dharmas. So, what the hell is this boy talking about? Allow me to illustrate. So on TV and cartoons, we see cows in the fields eating grass and quite contented. Happy to eat grass, happy to chew their cud. And when they make sweet love with the bull, they give birth to a calf, and then they feed the calf with milk from their udders that came from the grass that they ate. And in every region, there's different grasses that grow. And each grass and the different species of grass and the different microbial conditions in the soil and different mineral conditions in the soil will combine to create different flavors of milk. So just as the cows who graze in the specific Himalayan pasture will have a specific butter flavor to their butter produced from their milk, similarly, the Buddha nature pervades all natures. What does that mean? Well, for that, to answer that, we're going to go back to our meditation manual. So, quick like a bunny, I'm going to hopefully switch screens. What is meant by our Buddha nature? The phrase Buddha nature is a quaint Iron Age term to express the fact that within the central nervous system of every healthy human adult, there are structures that support not only the practice of the Buddha's path, but its mastery. Allow me to illustrate. Every time we inhale, whoopsie, that's not the right word. Every time we inhale, are wired to automatically access the sympathetic nervous system ensconced within the middle third of our spinal cord. And this helps us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. Every time we exhale, our parasympathetic nervous system, which is divided between the lower third and the upper third of that same spinal cord, this parasympathetic nervous system is wired to help us to so physically relax and mentally release that what we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less tantalizing, less permanent, and less defining. Or in other words, it helps us to let go. The fringe benefit of working with mindfulness and meditation, the fringe benefit of cooperating with our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, is that we stimulate the anterior cingulate gyrus, which is the seat of empathy. These three bits are our Buddha nature. They make it possible for us to practice mindfulness and meditation and empathy, which constitute the entirety of the Buddha's path. Mindfulness is the seventh fold. Meditation is the eighth fold. Meditation gives birth to right view. Mindfulness and meditation together help us to practice kind intention, kind communication, kind conduct, and the kind commerce that is profoundly cooperative, which together constitute a full 50% of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. And mindfulness and meditation working together as a team help us to experience our choices and utterances and deeds flowing with the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity. And so we see that simply by playing with mindfulness and meditation every 12 hours or so, the remaining six folds of the Buddha's nature blossom spontaneously, effortlessly, like toadstools in the woods after a rain. And so we see that just by cooperating with our Buddha nature, by cooperating with our wetware in our central nervous system, enlightenment becomes an inevitability. Welcome to the second quarter of this evening's mindful crease counting meditation. By resting the great knuckle at the base of our right ring finger upon the tip of our left ring finger, palms up in our lap, we gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce in the navel region of our mid-abdomen. So together as a team, let us practice mindfulness and meditation right now. If at any point you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist philosophy, or Buddhist meditation, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. We come now to the 36th verse of of the Song of Enlightenment. A single moon shines on every drop of water. Every water drop moon is held in a single moon. Every Buddha's Dharma body is my nature. My nature is one with every Tathagata. And the congregation said, WTF. So it starts off very simple. Imagine it's been raining. And upon every leaf of every shrub and every tree, there are multiple water drops, and the rain stops, and the breeze blows, and the sky clears, and we see a radiant full moon. And as we gaze about us, soggy as we probably are at this point, and we can see the moon reflected in every drop of water. That is a metaphor for our Buddha nature. So there's the idea of a Dharma body, which sounds very mystical if we take it literally. But when we take it figuratively, Dharma body, or Dharmakaya, if you prefer Sanskrit, simply means the mastery of awareness and letting go. And so, as we discussed in our previous examination of our neural anatomy, we are already wired to notice and release. It's hardwired into the majority of every healthy adult human being. It's hardwired into the majority of every healthy, complex mammal. My nature is one with every Tathagata. This is useful because we get very good at beating ourselves up. In our duality, we say, well, there are pleasant emotions and painful emotions, and if I'm experiencing a painful emotion, well, then I must be a bad meditator. No, it doesn't. There are compassionate intentions and cruel intentions, and if a cruel intention cartwheels across the stage of my mind, well, then I must be evil. The great Dzogchen teacher, Prahe Vajra, taught that whether it's pleasurable or painful, an emotion is just an emotion. whether it is cruel or kind, an intention is just an intention. Whether it is dull or insightful, a thought is just a thought. Whether it is glorious or grotesque, a memory is just a memory. Whether it is helpful or whether it is a help or a hindrance, a figment of our imagination is just a figment of our imagination. What establishes us as a good or bad meditator is not the object. It's not the object of our mind, but what we do with it. If we cooperate with our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, noticing and relaxing in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation, we will master the Buddha's path. There's an old saying, you've probably heard this before. Before I mastered martial arts, a punch was just a punch, a kick was just a kick. When I studied martial arts, a punch and a kick were everything. After I mastered martial arts, a punch was just a punch and a kick was just a kick. You might reach nirvana after your 5th day of meditation, but the toilet will still need scrubbing. Who we are is not determined by the chores we do or the thoughts we think, but rather what we do with them. The acolytes of religious patriarchy will tell you enlightenment is for the few, the special, and certainly not you. Those who traverse the path of spiritual matriarchy will say, enlightenment's for everyone. It's at hand, and it's very easy. Welcome to the 3rd quarter of this evening's mindful crease counting meditation. When we rest the great knuckle at the base of our right middle finger upon the tip of our left middle finger, palms up in our lap, we could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce in the heart region of our chest. Let's practice. Think of it this way. What's meditation? We sit in a sustainable posture. There's a firm cushion under our tuchus, a folded blanket under our ankles. We are allowing the subtle muscles of our spine to pull our head towards the ceiling. We cooperate with our inhalation that wants to notice. We cooperate with our exhalation that wants to release. It's just that simple. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 11 or so hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early morning meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Fourth be with you always.